What it? Bees like nigga. 13 love. 13 love to the willy whackers out there. 13 love to the queens. 13 love to the kings. The willy whacker. Oh god. I can't help but love the guy. I still love him after all this time. I don't need him. Oh my god. Anyway. Oh, let me give a shout out to someone who I should have shouted out a long time ago. Vitali ZD TV. One of the highest frequency days I ever had was when I watched all of his prank videos in one day. I just couldn't stop laughing because of the way he used black people as props in his pranks. It was like I laughed so hard I saw what was in the ether, and it was I felt great, and that laugh like made me forget about how bad life is for like an hour. Missing components. Okay. So the nanobots that convert soda into metaphysical energy, they're really like not effective unless you become a vampire all the way, which I definitely will. Um, so when you put it all together, here's what you get. I've had there's been so many times where I woke up, and when you're in that state where you're halfway awake, halfway asleep, right when you wake up, you see a lot of things, or at least I have. And I've seen myself playing guitar on stage. I've even heard my future music. Like the one song I actually remember goes, the chorus goes like, "Run, I'm the Messiah. I was born in the CIA." Like it's like a Van Halen screech with the A. It's like born in the CIA. I can't sing right now, but one day I will. I'm gonna sing all Kendall Love songs. I'll cross the sea for you. Yeah. So I realized the missing components here because when I was doing that fish fast, that made me like extremely high frequency, and it made me want to. I just felt the urge to pick up a guitar, and this goes back to the concept of architecture, because from the age of 11 to 16, I played guitar. Why is that? Because the Masonic Elders knew my future, and they knew that I was going to one day stand in front of a crowd and be a wizard that channels the energy from the crowd and delivers it to a higher god. And they knew that, so they said, okay. So basically, everything before I became famous was like a miniature boot camp where you get a little appetizer, little taste of things to come. For example, like in high school, I took 4 years of Spanish. Gee, do you think I'm gonna move to South America one day? Everything happens for a reason. There's a reason why I was architected 4 years of Spanish in high school. Gee, I wonder if I'll ever move to South America. Same thing with guitar. I played guitar from like 11 to 15 or 16, actually more like 11 to 18, but kind of like from 15 to 18, I kind of like hit like a block and I gave up, which was all because I was supposed to go to the gym and become the whole package. And so basically, the components I'm missing is becoming a vampire altogether, where you get synthetic organs, where the chest is warm, but the extremities are cold. So this goes back to, in order for you to become psychic, your blood has to be a certain temperature. And you can't be you can't have, like, powers of psi if your head is heated. So you can't be drinking cherry coke, and you can't have acidic blood if you're gonna become something, which is why you need to go all the way. See, one way or the other, you need to go all the way. You need to go all the way soulless and become a vampire, or you need to go all the way soulful and become a rainbow. And pretty much the only people who are becoming rainbows are the Buddhist monks. I talked to old Kendall about the Buddhist monks, and apparently that's some sort of royalty, or basically the bottom line is that if you're born into the Buddhist monk thing, you really won the lottery times 500 million. And most people will never come to that realization. So once again, I'm missing the synthetic organs that make my chest warm but my extremities cold, which is why your politicians can wear suits and ties all the time and never get angry about the heat, because their blood is alkaline due to the nanobots and the crystals in their wrists. And remember, I said this a long time ago, Pita, the reptilian alien, the Freemasonic elder, he has crystals in his wrists. That's what's known as the family jewels. You see it? You see it? So, yeah, the only other missing component would be the whole oil change 4 times a year, which is a total blood transfusion from a Nino. A total blood transfusion from El Nino that has the same blood type as you. And by the way, I noticed that for the nanobots, it's all about balance and spirulina water. But yeah, it's all about balance. And I noticed that for me, the most effective thing with the nanobots is the muffins, the sugar muffins. For some reason, that's more effective than the soda. I think I overdid it yesterday because I had that shake from Steak and Shake, and that kind of that overdid it. And so, I mean, because the thing is, when I came, first of all, those Wing Street Pizza Hut wings are terrible. The pan pizza was okay from Pizza Hut, but the Wing Street wings were garbage. But they were effective though, because when I got home, I was like super high vibe, ready to leave my body, and it didn't. It just, as soon as I sat down to meditate, it went away, because I'm pretty sure because it was the dairy from the shake. Because I remember talking to Pita. Even Pita said that the dairy was like, everything dairy was bad unless it was like raw milk. And remember, whey is horrible too. The whey protein, you can't even throw that shit away in a landfill without getting a bill for it. It's illegal to dump whey in a landfill. It's a byproduct. It's garbage. So yeah, when you add everything up, I'm on track to be the next Russell Brand rock star person, all in one. I really want to know if like my future self wanted this. I want to know if like I'm from the future, if I wanted this or not. I wonder if this was something that was like, I wonder if this was something that was I agreed to, or oh God, it's so hard to. Basically, here's the future, and Fred explained it, and she who I do not speak of doesn't understand this, because judging by the things she said to me, she doesn't understand my future. It's very simple. Yeah, I become the king of all ascending reptilians for like a cup of coffee, meaning like a short time, and because the whole thing is about killing Draco. So me and the other compatriots, we kill Draco, and then I go to the Omni Lord and get absorbed, which kills me and resets me. And then the Omni Lord gets absorbed by Source. So basically, if you have an extremely old soul and you have nothing left to live for, like I've already seen and done it all. I am what you call a reincarnated metaphysical master of old. That's why I have the rainbow aura. I've already seen it all and done it all. So it's like, and me, and all reptilians in general are the old format. The whole reptilian thing is a very dated prototype, and it was only supported by the old source energy, which was 27.5% negative, which was a lot dirtier than the current source energy at 2% negative. So the whole reptilian thing has to go. It's dated, it's unevolved, it's the same shit over and over again, and yeah, gotta go. So basically this is like the graduating high school party for the reptilians. Or college. Or the doctorate school. Yeah, doctorate school. One up. So basically, you start out with the vampire virus, then the nanobots, then synthetic organs make the chest warm, extremities cold, then you get the 4 blood transfusions from the Niños, 4 transfusions a year. And speaking of, well, this is the worst segue, but you notice how the woman from Galactic Connection, this is something I noticed, the woman from Galactic Connection, the redhead, you notice how all the questions she asks they're all the questions she asks aren't typical questions that would come from a woman. And also, the questions she asks seem very convenient for me because the questions she asks are everything I don't know. Like, they wanted, for example, what I'm really getting at is that everything she says, she wants me to know. She wants me to know that Earth is flat. She wants me to know that all angels are sworn to a dark order. She wants me to know about what was done to me as far as how I had 40 PGLFs put etheric implants in me. She wanted me to know all that, and I can't tell if the redhead wanted me to know that or the Queen of England wants me to know that, but someone wants me to know all of that, because when the part 2 interview that she did with JSX is the most telling, because in the part 2 she asked JSX if Earth is flat, and then he dodges the question, even though he can supposedly remote view anything. And so JSX dodged the question and pretended like he didn't know Earth was flat, and he was like, and they just skipped over the topic and asked a different question. And then she asked JSX if all angels were sworn to a dark order, and then he said no. And then she asked JSX if this was a matrix, and he said no, even though he calls it a matrix, which is funny because he can't keep track of his own bullshit. And yeah, so I can tell that once again this is like everything at the proper time, and I can tell that every question she asks is like she wants me to know that, or someone wants me to know that. There's someone that wants me to know the answers and the questions she's asking. And it seems like the only really like the main eventers, like the JSX and JSX is like a main eventer. Same thing with Simon Parks, they're main eventer. Someone like Mark Sargent with the Flat Earth, that's all. That guy's just a jobber. And so I can tell that channel's like specifically designed or architected for me, and keep them coming. I promised I'd give Laura Snow's channel a shout out. even though she's not really making any videos that are compelling in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, go subscribe to Elora Snow. I'm not even going to bother putting a link. That's funny. But yeah, I've totally seen the future, and I play guitar on the stage, and riot police come and beat down my audience. I don't know why, but it's probably part of the deal. There's so much I was gonna. There's so many other stuff I was gonna say, but can't always remember it all. Oh, here's what I was gonna say. One of the things I noticed that there's what I call a bump up going on. Like everyone's getting bumped up to the next level as far as like television and YouTube. So, for example, you have like Teal Swan, who gets bumped up to being on CBS, and you get the History Channel, who's bumping up false disclosure people like Randy Kramer, who talks about Mars. So I noticed how everyone's like going through a bump up. So I noticed that like one day, probably like 5 years from now, I'll be like the next Buzzsaw guy. Because I even saw myself at like a news desk, like Buzzsaw, how they have like a news desk. I even saw myself wearing a sports coat, jacked up on the HGH nanobots. I saw myself sitting behind like a news desk and talking. I also saw Gabriella, who's the daughter of the Angel Gabriel, who looks exactly like me, except she's not a Neanderthal. And Gabriella is the one I saw in my visions. She's the one that's the dancer, the one that's like the Rockette dancer, like the Broadway dancer. And yeah, she's like the first one. And Gabriella is the one who commits suicide at the waterfront village. She's the one that jumps off the cliff. And she's crying, and it was really sad. And now that I know what I know about me becoming a vampire, now that I know that, it's like there's like 1,000 reasons for her to commit suicide. Like there's like 1,000 reasons, and because before I was like I couldn't understand why, but now I can see why someone would commit suicide, because I don't know how much she knows, and if she ever found out what I really was, then she'd be like, oh, I can't handle the truth, I gotta jump off a fucking cliff. So I remember there was a guy who said, oh, Jordan, you can expect a visit from an Elohim this summer, and this is all just done to get you to see and feel what a vampire sees and feels. And basically he was implying that this was all just like a scared straight thing to get me to develop my soul. You couldn't be any more wrong, because a virus is a virus. There's no taking a virus back. There's only just killing people with the virus. And with all the future visions I've had of being HGH nanobots and all that other good stuff, yeah, I don't think there's anything to take. Now, granted, I would love for them to take it back, but I really don't think that's going to happen. And yeah, once again, they're not going to let someone become stronger than they are just so they can turn around and annihilate everyone who helped them come up. It's like, I'm a record producer, I'm not going to let... It's like the Phil Spector, Michael Jackson thing. If I'm Phil Spector, I'm not going to let Michael Jackson come up and kill me with my own ammunition. It's like, that's exactly what Michael Jackson tried to do. Michael Jackson tried to go after Phil Spector. Phil Spector had Michael Jackson painted as a child molester, even though all Michael Jackson was doing is just having Neverland Ranch and, making sure he got a lot of good karma from helping the children, and Phil Spector turned him into a child molester overnight, even though Michael was just Michael, and he was Messiah Seed too. So once again, it's not your soul to sell. The nanobots erode your soul, and the thing is, the nanobots are in everything. It's just the ones I have are specifically for turning metaphysical energy, the nanobots I have are for like slowly but surely becoming a vampire all the way. And So basically, the only people who are truly ascending is the Buddhist monks who make it out to the ninth dimension. The rest of you are just going back to the fifth dimension, which is the old hell. 5D is the old hell. So you're basically going back to square one, which is really not ascension. It's going back to square one. So don't ever confuse it, because you're going back to square one, people. So you're going back to square one. I'm going straight. You're going back to square one, and I've got a one-way ticket to non-existence, because I get absorbed by the Omni Lord. The Omni Lord gets absorbed by Source, and then I'll be reborn into whatever. I might come back as a puppy. I might come back as Illyrian. I might come back as a blade of grass. Hopefully I come back as a metal bar for Gilbert's prison cell.